Hello everyone, my name is Yang, and in this video I'm going to talk about the project that our team is doing. Now, before we get into that, let's talk about going to the beach. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have gone to the beach before. I've gone plenty of time myself, and every time I go there, I can't help but notice that, big or small, there's always a certain amount of trash on the beach, and it's always a hassle to try and clean them up. And if you don't clean them up, then they become an eyesore, and it's just bad all around, right? Now, there have been solutions to deal with this automatically, where you use a vehicle to scrape up the trash on the ground, or you use a tractor to drive around the beach in order to collect litters and stuff like that lying on the ground. Now, this works well for area where there is flat and even sand, but what about uneven beaches where there's a lot of rocks and cobbles and you can't simply just scrape up the ground to pick up trash? Well, that's the reason why we created TradWeb, inspired by the real-life Mars rover. Now, Mars rover. Why do we use Mars rover here? It's a vehicle for exploring the other planet of Mars. Why are we using it to pick up trash? Well, TradWeb stands for Trash Removal All-Terrain Vehicle, electrically powered. And I want you to pay attention to two words here, trash remover and all-terrain. Now, the Mars rover check those two boxes very nicely. Trash removal, it uses a robot arm to pick up trash, and all-terrain, it has a suspension system that lends well to going over cobble beaches like I've shown before. So that's why we decided to use the design, or rather a simplified design of the rover Perseverance for our creation. So how does it work? It has two main functions, the versatile arm for collecting litter and the rocker boogie system. For the litter collecting robot arm, it has double joints and has full range of motion, much like that of a human arm, and it uses a simple grabbing system with two prongs in order to grab whatever litter that it sees. Now, this simple grabbing mechanism is controlled by computer vision AI, and that AI will be able to use the live fed footage of the camera and calculate the location of the piece of trash that it's trying to pick up, and then control that arm in order to reach that location. And it is also possible to use this arm for different configurations. Our main goal is to use this for trash picking, but you can also fit a trimmer in order to trim trees, or a water hole in order to water plants or greeneries. The star of the system is the rocker boogie suspension. It has three main points that fits perfectly for its objective to collect trash on uneven terrain. One is that it is able to scale over obstacles that is twice the wheel diameter, meaning that if it reaches an obstacle that is 20 centimeter high, then despite having 10 centimeter wheel, is able to scale the obstacles perfectly fine without tipping over. Another point is that thanks to the design of the Rocker Boogie suspension, it is able to tilt less compared to how much the wheel tilt. What does that mean? So when the wheel, as a comparison to the ground itself, tilt up by 20 centimeter, then the main chassis in the middle only tilt up by 10. Thanks to that genius design, it is able to keep stable and not fall over as easily. The final point is that, again, thanks to the geometry of the system, it is able to keep full point of contact on the ground. So if you imagine a four-wheeled vehicle when it is going over uneven terrain, like the one I've shown before, it will either be high centered, or it will have one of these wheel hang up in the air and not be able to make contact with the ground. That won't happen with the Rocker Boogie suspension system that we have on the model. So, in terms of picking up trash automatically, we only have one notable contender on the market, and that is the Bebot. Now, the Bebot's functions different than ours, so it's kind of unfair to compare, but what it does that is scrape trash up the ground underneath the floor of the sand, 4 inches underneath, in fact. And because of that, it needs to be low to the ground, and that would not works well if it has to travel over uneven terrain. It's also quite large and heavy. One of these would be able to would have a weight of roughly 420 kilograms each, and it requires human pilot. So whenever you use these things, you need someone to work with it to control it whenever it is driving and picking up trash. And the biggest part about the Bebot is that it has high initial cost. One of these could cost up to $72,000 plus an extra $5,300 for the trailer to scrape up the sand. So it's quite expensive, right? But for a Tradweb, however, it has higher ground clearance thanks to the suspension, making it more flexible to travel over uneven terrain. It also relatively lightweight. The full-scale model will be no more heavy than 150 kilograms. So that's already 4 times lighter than a standard Bebot model. And even though we haven't calculated the cost of this, if it go into market, we are very confident that it will not reach the price of $72,000 that Bebot is. So one benefits of using Tradweb is again, it is highly maneuverable on difficult terrain, and two is that it's mechanically simple. Now, the design of the Rocket Boogie system is the way it is because NASA, the people who first created the system on the Perseverance rover, wanted a system that can work in difficult terrain with a lot of environmental factor like dust and dirt without needing maintenance. And so they came up with the Rocket Boogie system, which is perfect for that because it has not a lot of joints for movement compared to a normal suspension, and it does not have any spring that stretches. So it is more stable in that regard. The next part is that it is adaptable to extensive array of missions. So as I've said before, we planned on having different configurations on the robot arm. So even though it only for now mainly works for picking up trash, you can use it for other purposes like taking care of greeneries, plants, and trimming trees, etc. But it is not without drawbacks. Our current prototype only works with charged battery. It cannot charge itself, so whenever it's going mission and run out battery, it will just stay there and wouldn't be able to figure out how to come back to recharge or to tell the controller that it's running out battery. It would just straight up run out battery. And it also has a limited litter picking capability. So if you imagine a piece of, let's say, plastic bottle stuck between two pieces of rocks, it would not be able to figure out how to unstuck it. The algorithm only knows to locate it using the camera sensor and to lift the robot arm where it has gotten hold of the bottle. If it cannot lift it up, then it would try to lift it up and it will be stuck there with the piece of trash, or it will give up and move on. Neither of which is favorable. Another thing is that it is unable to identify the type of trash. So since this vehicle uses a single litter bin in the bag, it throws all types of trash into a single place, and it cannot differentiate whether it's a paper, cans, or plastic or glass. And when it goes back after a mission, you have to manually do it yourself. In terms of improvement, we plan for our AI to be able to identify litter on itself, like we've said, and a hive mind network so that it can share data and works on itself. with other vehicles as well.